number 2 Kansas men's basketball lost to number 13 Kansas State. Granted, it was on the road, and it was in overtime, 83-82. So obviously Kansas State had a 44-39 lead at half. Then Kansas turned it on with 33 points, and Kansas State only scored 28. But in overtime, 11-10 in favor of Kansas State. And they did have a dunk in the game with 23.5 seconds left in overtime. And I'm going to go over that last sequence of the game, like the last possession. They had a dunk at 24 seconds left or something like that with no time left. Kansas was trying to trying to go for the win, but they turned the ball over. Obviously, and 104 left. They with like 131 left. It was tied with 2 made free throws, and a Kansas State called timeout at 80. Then there was a foul. Jalen Wilson made both those free throws. That was the last points in the game from 118 for Kansas. And then Jalen Wilson fouled, so Keontae Johnson missed the first, but made the second. Kansas called timeout. They tried to go for a 3. They didn't make it. Then they got a defensive rebound, and they had a dunk with 24 seconds left. So now I'm going to go over some stats for the game as a team. Now Kansas shot the ball good in this game, 43.3% from the field, 26 for 60, 6 for 29 on threes, which is 20.7%. And half of those threes made came from Jalen Wilson, 3 for 10. And Grady Dick had an off game, 1 for 8. And I mean, that's the thing. 24 for 34 on free throws, which is 70.6%. They had 38 rebounds, 12 of those offensive. 21 assists, 9 steals, 4 blocks, 15 turnovers, 25 fouls. And they did have 8 points off the bench. Not that great. But Kansas State had 31 points off the bench. That does matter. I mean, Kansas State shot 41.7%, which is 25 for 60 overall. Same number of shots, and the thing is, Kansas State made 7 for 17 on threes, which is 41.2%. So 1 3 or 1 made bucket away from Kansas really winning the game here. 26 for 33 overall, 78.8% from the free throw line. 38 rebounds, 11 of those offensive. Yes, they gave up too many offensive rebounds on their own end, and not enough offensive rebounds on their own end, but they still won. 12 assists, not that great, but they had 12 steals, 3 blocks, 15 turnovers, 24 fouls. Still too many fouls. So I will say this Kansas was due for a loss in the Big 12 at some point. Let's be real, because they barely survived against Oklahoma State by 2 points. They barely beat Texas Tech on the road by 3. They barely beat Oklahoma by 4. They barely beat Iowa State by 2. So 4 games within 4 points. And I'm not including that West Virginia game at West Virginia, because that was a 14-point win. So I'm just saying, eventually the luck has to go away from you in this game, and the ball doesn't bounce your way. Now, they have to host number 14 TCU at home. Then they play number 21 Baylor. They play Kentucky, that's 12-6 at Kentucky. Kentucky is not as good as last year's team by any means, but they're still talented. I know they are. And they did defeat Tennessee, so they're dangerous. I would consider that a dangerous team. Then they host Kansas State, which they could very well lose to them again. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that. Then they have Iowa State and number 12 Iowa State at that. So I'm pretty sure Iowa State wants revenge after what happened. Let's just be real about that. So it's not really an easy stretch for Kansas. But in the Big 12, nothing is easy. Not even your worst opponents. I mean, First of all, Kansas State is going to have to play Texas Tech, who is desperate for a conference win because they're 0-6 in the Big 12 now, and they're five of the 6 losses within 7 points, and even 4 of those were within 6. So that's the thing. Then they have Kansas State has at number 12 Iowa State. That's not going to be an easy game right there. They have Florida at home, which they're 10-7. They have at Kansas, which I know they just barely beat, but it's still not easy to go on the road. And then they host number 7 Texas, which we know Kansas State beat Texas at Texas. They did. So it's just the gauntlet of the Big 12 here. I mean, no nights off. I mean, it's the truth. Anyways, if you like this content, hit like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys later. This is going to 500 subscribers. We're on the road to it. Let's go.